Now, I'd like to move that we... what? Oh. Oh my goodness, they've come in with the big guns. Okay, so back to hearings panel Ruapuno.
So thank you for that short delay. We've managed to consult with the expert, Mr. O'Connor, and told him...
Why are we laughing?
Because I called you the big guns.
And explained the issues. So, Robert, I might let you talk through, but essentially we think there's enough protection already in the lease, but if need be and you're still not satisfied, we have another option. So I'll hand to Robert.
So I understand the issue is noise and the need to control noise, and for there to be consequences for breaches of conditions around noise. I'm looking particularly, I don't know whether you've had this document put in front of you or not, but clause 16 of the draft lease contains a provision which is a fairly standard commercial lease provision that you'd expect to see, which requires the tenant to comply with the requirements of the city plan and any resource consent that's issued under the city plan. And so what that means is, if I understand there is a resource consent, and the resource consent is quite prescriptive around the types of noise, the timing when certain noise levels are permitted, and those sorts of details. So if the tenant under this clause was to breach those prescriptions around noise, then the landlord, the councillor's landlord, would have a remedy, and that remedy would be it potentially could cancel the lease. In terms, though, of the Property Law Act, the process to cancel the lease is prescribed by statute, and in this case it would require a notice to be given by the landlord to the tenant, specifying the breach and requiring the breach to be remedied within a short period of time. Only if the breach was not remedied, having given that notice, would a right of cancellation arise. So in my view, the lease that's been drafted contains the clause that it should, and that clause does give the councillor's landlord the ability to bring the arrangement to an end if there is a breach of the noise conditions in the city plan or in a resource consent.
But, and here's the but, so if you're, I mean, that sounds like a breach, like you're doing something that's kind of a continuous state of affairs. But if you breach the condition, which is to go over the noise limit X number of times...
You only need to breach it once, and you could use this clause.
Read it out again.
It says that it's generic, and I'll paraphrase it. The tenant will comply with the provisions of all statutes and the requirements of the applicable city plan, including any amendments and amendments or changes or replacement of the district plan, and all bylaws relating to the use of the premises by the tenant.
Can I just add that? I mean, that's in section 16. Section 19 deals with the cancellation.
No.
So 19.1 says if you're failing to meet those things, then we could cancel it.
Oh, I see.
No, 19 is a different cancellation clause dealing with different matters. 19 is about...
observe or perform any obligation under the lease.
19 is about arrears of rent.
No, but B says if the leasee fails to observe or perform any obligation under this lease, and the leasee has failed to remedy that breach, then we could serve them a notice.
Which is what I've described. There are a whole lot of other circumstances where you...
So the other option we were alluded to is to use that clause and link that more closely to 16. But
there's absolutely
it
no
doesn't
need from
add much benefit because you still have to go through the same process.
It's right there. It's one of the reasons that the hearings panel put in the annual review rather than just we can look at it at any stage.
So are you confident, Robert, that say they go and spend, because they've got a 33-year lease, they go and spend millions of dollars.
It's not relevant.
No, but then you want to, they break all the noise limits, you can still cancel that lease and not have to recompense them for improvements or anything?
I'm not sure what the lease says about improvements. I have to quickly flick through, but
they could take them away.
The lease allows them to remove the improvements, does it?
Here, 14.
hard to pick up a track.
Is there a clause?
Is there a
Stropia
stropia
clause?
clause? No, the Property Law Act is pretty controlling around the circumstances where you can terminate a lease. It attempts to balance the rights of landlords and tenants off, and it's come up with this arrangement that where you, if they fail to pay the rent, the landlord can cancel immediately. But if any other breach, such as the noise provisions that we're talking about, you have to give this notice, you have to give them the opportunity to remedy the breach, and then if they don't remedy, then you can cancel.
Are you confident with what's in here that you could actually terminate this lease if they
I'm confident that we could issue the notice to threaten termination, and if they fail to rectify the breach, we could then cancel.
But I'm just, well, I'm sorry, can you just, I mean, 16.5 says the lessee's representatives will actively participate in a constructive manner in any committee meetings, and the lessee will use its reasonable endeavours to implement any initiatives agreed by the committee to reduce the number of complaints received in relation to the permitted use. That doesn't indicate that there's an absolute absolute right sitting with the lessor that they can cancel
That's
the lease
complaints,
if they
not
don't.
actual breaches, though. There are more complaints than there are actual breaches.
Yeah.
There's quite a difference.
So show me the breach clause.
And that committee is the...
Well, the clause, the obligation is in 16.1.
I know, but where does it say you can cancel the lease for breaching 16.1? Well, if the lessee comes. Yes, but it says if the lessee fails to observe or perform any obligation and has failed to remedy that breach within the period specified in a notice served on the lessee in accordance with the Property Law Act. So we've got to serve a notice of them for breaching
That's what I've described.
the noise
so
conditions.
there's a process which involves serving a notice.
Yeah, you serve a notice, and then they don't do it again. Yeah, I mean,
If they remedy
you can't remedy.
Well, as I described, the Property Law Act prescribes how a landlord can cancel a lease. For a breach which doesn't involve non-payment of rent,
Yeah.
so that's every other breach, the process the landlord must follow is it must issue a notice specifying what the breach is, and if the breach is remedied requiring the breach to be remedied within a reasonable period of time, if the breach is remedied within that period of time, that's it. Problem solved.
Yes, but you don't keep making noise when you're not having.
If the breach is not remedied, then the lease can be cancelled.
Yeah, but how do you remedy? How do you not continue the breach when you're not actually?
Well, if they continue making noise.
Yes, I know, but they'll make noise the next time they run an event, and then you have to serve another notice. Oh, if people are generally happy with it, but we were asked to look at we did ask to look at the lease as part of the way of signalling to them how strong it was, how we didn't want to, in short. Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
I give up.
That's correct.
I am defeated. Right. Yes, absolutely. I know when to give up. So,
just to reassure you,
do we have a motion? Do we have a resolution?
I don't know if Leanne wants the
Yes, moved and seconded. No, I don't want any reassurance. I know when I'm on a losing streak. So, and I know that. No, I would like to put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.